Now, I want to jump over to the book of Numbers. And this book of Numbers, a lot of people don't like the book of Numbers. Too many genealogies, too many names and numbers and things. And so the book of Numbers is often passed over very lightly. I want to tell you that the book of Numbers theologically has shaped me as much as probably any book in the Bible. And you say, are you kidding me? I'll show you why. There's some really interesting and dynamic stuff in the book of Numbers. It tells about the 40 years wilderness wandering, when Israel wandered in the wilderness. When they wandered in the wilderness, they had no what? No food, no water, no leadership. They had problems. They were complaining about everything and stuff. And so the wilderness wanderings in the book of Numbers, usually a negative book, but I want to share some things out of that. In the book of Numbers, chapter 6, we get the story of this Nazarite, what's called the Nazarite Vow. And so this is from Numbers chapter 6. There's 3 rules. How do you become a Nazarite? You guys want to become a Nazarite? How do you become a Nazarite? There's 3 rules, basically, for dedicating yourself to the Lord in this way of this Nazarite vow. First thing, don't touch dead bodies. Now you say, well, that's pretty good. I don't want to touch dead bodies anyway. Okay, in our culture, do other people touch dead bodies for us? In that culture, did they have like undertakers and stuff, or did members of the family have to prepare the body for death? Yeah, and so if you're a Nazarite, you're not allowed to touch dead bodies, that kind of thing. So that was important. No product of the grape. No product of the grape. Nothing of the grape. That means certainly no wine, no grape juice. You could not even eat grapes, and you could not eat raisins even. Raisins. Nothing from the grape was allowed. So no product of the grape at all. Okay, important third. Now, as soon as I put this third one up there, everybody's going to think the same thought. When I put this one up there, who comes to your mind? No raisin. You're not allowed to cut your hair. Samson. Okay, Samson comes to everybody's mind because Samson was not allowed to cut his hair. By the way, did Samson have some problems with some of these other ones, though, before he got to the hair? Okay? Samson, I always say, Samson was a Nazarite. He was a Nazarite from birth, so he never got to cut his hair from birth. Question, he wasn't supposed to touch dead bodies. What's the problem with that? Did Samson make dead bodies? Yeah. Okay. So, you get the hair for Samson was the hair of the last straw. Hair was like the last straw for Samson. So anyways, these 3 things then for a Nazarite vow, and a person would dedicate themselves specially to the Lord. They would take, no grapes, no razor on their head, and no touching dead bodies, these 3 type things. Now, what was the function of it? The person was separating themselves to the Lord. The person was separating themselves to Yahweh and using this means as a vow, to take a vow to separate themselves, especially to the Lord. It showed that God was over one's food, God was over one's family, and God was over even how one kept one's own body, that God was over food, family, and one's body. And so it was a kind of a interesting thing here. It was a visible memorial. If a person's been a Nazarite vow, by the way, did you have to take a Nazarite vow for like ever? You had to be born, like Samson was a Nazarite from birth, and he was a Nazarite all his life. Do you realize that many people took the Nazarite vow for just a year, 2 years, or half a year, or something like that? You could take the vow for a shorter period of time. You didn't have to do it for all your life. Now, Samson did it for all his life, but normal people, you just do it for a period of time. And by the way, if you looked at Samson, would you know he's a Nazarite? Yeah. Because what? He never cut his hair. Yeah. Tell me about the guy's beard and his hair. Now, my wife, we grew up kind of back when they had these people called hippies and stuff. And so my wife had her hair down her back and stuff. Apparently, does your hair stop growing when it gets a certain length or something like that? I've been told that your hair kind of stops growing and stuff. And the guy's beard, now I'd never grown my beard that long, but I think the same thing with the guy's beard and stuff. It grows. But would Samson be a big head of hair? I mean, what I'm saying? I mean, seriously, never had his hair cut, ever. And, we're talking, does anybody ever see a picture of Keith Green? Actually, one of my heroes is a guy named Keith Green. And Keith Green, that haircut, reminds me of Samson, actually. But anyway, sorry. Giving up things for God. Giving up things for God. Food, family, even the way one decorates one's body and that kind of thing. Giving up things for God. Now, How do you complete a Nazarite vow? When you've finished your Nazarite vow, how do you finish it off? Well, first of all, you offer up a sacrifice to God. Doesn't that just sound natural? You're going to finish your dedication vow to God. You offer up a sacrifice. The second thing you do is you shave your head. This got to be painful. You shave your head and burn the hair on the altar. You shave your head and you take your hair and you burn it on the altar. Okay? And so this would be, then all of a sudden the guy goes from a big head of hair to shaved head, and the hair is shaved.
That would smell so bad.
Yeah. Samson. When I say, how many of you say Samson and put a P in your Samson? Does anybody put a P in their Samson? That's actually, you guys are working from the Greek Septuagint. You didn't know it. Is Samson name got a P in it? No, it doesn't. But everybody usually pronounces it Samson based on the Septuagint, the Greek text of the Old Testament. They don't even know why. But actually his name is Shimshon. Shimshon is actually his real name. Shimshon is based on the word for son. Shimshon is the base. So Samson's name really means sunny. Okay? So sunny is Samson's name. Okay? Samson, he was a Nazarite from birth. Samuel was also a Nazarite from birth. Okay? A lot of people don't associate Nazarite vow with Samuel, but he was also a Nazarite from birth and things. Here's one in the New Testament. Paul, the Apostle Paul, takes a vow at the end of his ministry kind of thing as he's coming back to Jerusalem, trying to raise money for the poor people at Jerusalem. Paul takes a Nazarite vow. And, by the way, does that mean then that Paul needs to go to Jerusalem and burn his hair on the altar? Shave his head and burn his hair on the altar. Remember, all these people are telling Paul, don't go up to Jerusalem. Paul, don't go up to Jerusalem. Paul, if you go up to Jerusalem, they're going to capture you there. It's going to be really bad for you. Question, Paul's a Nazarite vow. Does he need to go to Jerusalem to burn his hair on the altar? Yes, he does. And Paul carries through on that. Question, once he gets up there, did they put him in jail? Yes, they do. So Paul was, that's the way Paul was. But anyways, he does a Nazarite vow for a period of, a year or two. The Apostle Paul does that. Now, this raises another question then. Was Jesus a Nazarite? Was Jesus a Nazarite? You say no, because I've seen pictures of Jesus and he's always well shaved. Okay. Was Jesus a Nazarite? When I was younger, I was taught that Jesus was a Nazarite, and therefore Jesus did not drink wine. And therefore, because Jesus did not drink wine, you should not drink wine. Jesus was a Nazarite. What's the problem with that argument?
He drank wine.
Yeah. Jesus not only drank wine, he made wine, okay? But then you say, well, that was grape juice and it wasn't really, you go off on all that, okay, that's, But Jesus was not a Nazarite, Jesus was a Nazarene. What's that mean? A Nazarene means he's a Nazarene, means he's from the town of Nazareth. That's all that means. Jesus was from, a Nazarene means he was from the town of Nazareth in Galilee. It does not mean he was a Nazarite. Jesus was not a Nazarite. Jesus was not a Nazarite, okay? He was a Nazarene from the town of Nazareth, okay? So, and this becomes it's significant. I think, I've mentioned to people that what do you do with the alcohol thing? Does the Bible teach abstinence from alcohol? Does the Bible teach abstinence from alcohol? Jesus drank wine in the Passover cup. We know it was in Jewish. Jesus has taken the Passover cup. There's wine in the cup and things. You say, is it legitimate can I drink wine as a faculty member of Gordon College?
Yeah.
Long as it's not on campus. I think they got a rule the faculty can off campus and stuff. I'm a teetotaler like all the way around. Largely, by the way, it's interesting to me. I don't drink actually alcohol unless I'm in a cultural situation like, I'm saying I'm a Jewish context and the guy hands me and you're doing a ceremony or something, then you participate. But largely because, how should I say, I counseled with a woman for quite a while. Her husband was an alcoholic. He would come home and beat up his kids and do all sorts of really bad stuff. My brother-in-law has had major problems with alcohol. I told you we picked up everything the man owned, brought it to my house. Another friend of mine, Eric Zimmerman, a real good student friend of mine and stuff like that, was killed dead one night when a drunk basically ran through a stop sign, killed Eric dead on the spot. My friend he's in the grave till this day because of that. So I kind of, after Eric died, I just said, I don't drink. What's really interesting, I don't drink and stuff. Do all my kids drink? Yeah. My one son's actually making it in these 5-gallon pails, man. He's making this stuff. Anyways, and so it hasn't worked out really well in that sense, but I know what I've got to do is right for me. The Bible never, by the way, the Bible does not condemn alcohol. The Bible condemns drunkenness. Is the Bible explicit that drunkenness is a sin? The Bible is explicit about drunkenness as a sin. Okay? So drunkenness is the problem. By the way, when you're in Israel, I lived in Israel for a year. The people over there, they drink wine with their meals and things like that. To be honest with you, I never saw a drunk in Israel. By the way, if you're Jewish and you get drunk over there, do you want to be drunk and walk into the Arab section? I just want to tell you, you get drunk over there, you could be dead, okay? And so the people don't, they drink in moderation and stuff. So you got to be careful. The Bible doesn't say abstinence. I abstain for other reasons, but not because the Bible commands that, okay? And so, anyways, you got to work with that. Now, by the way, this fellow in the last class hour, too, he's from a church where the church takes a stand where they don't do alcohol in the church. Should he go back into that church and say, my professor says that Jesus drank wine? Is that really ugly? When you're in a context like that, again, I would not make a big deal out of it. If you're in a community where they don't drink and then it's a big deal to them, I guess what I'm saying is chill out, saying you don't have to go in there as the big, you're going to enlighten them on alcohol kind of things. I was in a church, pastor of church for a bit in Tennessee area where they split the church over alcohol. They blew the church up over alcohol. I come in knowing that the church is just split over this alcohol thing. I come in as a preacher. I walk out the first day, I'll never forget it. The elder board is all lined up and I go to shake their hands. Every one of those elders is either chewing or smoking or spitting. They're all, guess what these guys did for a living? They raised tobacco, okay? This is down south. They raised tobacco, and they're all tobacco farmers. They just split the church on alcohol. Now, I'm from the north. Question, did that boggle my mind? It was like, you split the church over alcohol, which is okay, and yet you guys all raised tobacco, which is killing everybody. And stuff. And so what I'm saying is, now the question, did I get up there? My next sermon was on the evils of. No. Do you understand why they did the thing over alcohol? Because these guys were a bunch of moonshiners up there. They were making moonshine in their radiators, and they were getting lead poisoning from the stupid radiators. And so what I'm saying, there's major problems in prohibition things. These guys went over on the other side. So what I'm saying is you got to fit in and make issues. I guess what I'm saying once again, major on the majors, minor on the minors. There's some things that just aren't important to fight. So if I go into church where everybody's an abstainer type person, I just abstain. If I go into church that everybody drinks and stuff, I just try to explain to them why I don't drink. But if I'm in a context where it would be offensive to them, I'll do that. I'll drink whatever I have to drink. So what I'm saying is just, I think about fellowship and community is more important than what you drink, okay? I guess that's what I'm saying. So, okay, now, the oldest piece of scripture, Numbers chapter 6. Let me just tell you the story. I think I've already told this. Do you remember the JEDP theory? You guys remember the JEDP theory, right? Critics say that Moses didn't write this, that this Pentateuch was written by a J writer who liked Jehovah's name, or E writer who favored Elohim's name. Deuteronomy was written kind of a separate thing by Josiah around the time of Josiah. And then the P document was the most advanced, and it was the priestly document because all the complexity of the priestly stuff. And the priestly stuff was written, the P document was written about 550 to 450 after the exile to Babylon, 550 to 450. Now, let me just read to you the priestly blessing out of Numbers. The Lord said to Moses, tell Aaron and his sons, this is how you, Aaron, as priests, are to bless the Israelites. Say to them, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. How many of you have heard a pastor say, the Lord bless you and keep you, or make his face? If you go to Park Street Church, Dr. Gordon Hugenberger will end with this priestly blessing at every church service, okay? It's obviously a priestly blessing. Lo and behold, if you guys are Jerusalem, you guys are the Mount of Olives, there's a valley that comes down here called the Kidron Valley between the Mount of Olives and Jerusalem. It goes down to the Dead Sea here. There's another valley that comes down this way and cuts across here. They were building a hotel right here. And the digging machine all of a sudden hit something, and it was a tomb. And this tomb had been collapsed, and I think I talked about this earlier. The tomb had been collapsed by an earthquake, and so when they got there, all the stuff, including a woman with a silver amulet around her neck, was found there. The woman still in place around her neck. It took them, I was told, it took 3 years to unroll that silver amulet, and on that silver amulet was found actually by a guy. When you're talking tombs in Jerusalem, you're talking one man. And that name is Gabi Barkai. Okay, I get to study under this guy back in the 70s. Okay, this is the 1970s. Okay, and Gabi Barkai was my teacher. One of the really neat things for me was this last semester we had a Gordon student. By the way, you guys can study in Israel on Mount Zion at the Institute of Holy Land Studies there, Jerusalem University College. One of our students came back and said, I took archaeology of Jerusalem off Dr. Gabi Barkai. And I thought, no, he can't still be alive. He was old when I was there in the 70s, man. This guy is still old. He says he still smokes a pack of cigarettes a day, too. I don't know how he does it, but anyways, he's the resident archaeologist of Jerusalem. I've been in this guy. This guy can walk into a tomb, walk up to the wall of the tomb, and touch the chisel marks there, and tell you within 100 years of when that chisel mark was made. This guy, how should I say, exceedingly bright Jewish man, has studied tombs in Jerusalem like all his life. He is like the world's leading experts on tombs in Jerusalem. He's been in them all. And they got him to find this. He ends up, I think he's the guy who published this stuff. This is the earliest piece of scripture. When does it date from? It dates from 700 BC. Why is that significant? Because the critics were saying the priestly stuff came from 450 BC. We actually have a piece of scripture around a woman's neck from 700 BC. This is the earliest piece of the Bible that's ever been found. Earliest piece, 750 BC. Who was living when this was going around this lady's neck? Do you realize King Hezekiah, has anybody ever heard of Hezekiah? Hezekiah was living when this was going around this lady's neck. Hezekiah in the Bible. So this is really a tremendous find. It's just, I was so happy, to be honest with you, for Dr. Barkai that he got to be in on this. So this is a really cool thing. This is coming out of the book of Numbers. And Numbers 6, the priestly blessing, earliest piece of scripture ever found.